Mr. Pranjal Sharma, economic analyst, advisor, and author. Professor Rajan Saxena, Chairman, IMA India Case Research Center, and former Vice Chancellor, and NMIMS University, Mumbai. Dr. Anuja Pandey, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. This is an opportunity for us to present you first edition of India Case Research Center. This is in a form of competition which we are going to conduct tomorrow. You know that we have set up this Case Research Center in the year 2008. Over the last 2-3 years, there is a considerable improvement as well as development in this Case Research Center. This Case Research Center basically set up with the support of AICT, and this AICT has collaborated with IMA in developing India-centric cases. We have conducted several workshops in last 2-3 years, and we too find that there is a tremendous response as far as India cases are considered. This particular this particular conference is also focused that how we are going to have more and more India-centric cases. We have seen in last few years that there is a considerable change in business environment. COVID-19 has considerably changed the economic scenario of this country. We have witnessed that growth rate, this was negative in 2020. But this pessimism, we are hoping that in coming year is going to be over, and next year we are trying to achieve, and this has also rightly predicted by various agencies that India would achieve growth rate more than 11%. If this is going to be true, then definitely there is a tremendous opportunity for us that how we are growing in coming years. Likewise, we have seen that there is also a very revolutionary changes which are going to happen in case of this India's education policy. We have witnessed and we have seen that new education policy that has already been announced, and there is a considerable debate and discussion how this new education policy this is going to be implemented. This new education policy is going to provide us an opportunity how we are going to include various kind of this stream in one particular specialization or in management program also. There is an opportunity that students, those who are studying science stream, they can also study liberal arts. In that particular context, there is a need that how this curriculum, this is going to be dynamic. And in this dynamic curriculum, how we are going to adapt new kind of changes, emerging technologies, as well as how we are going to focus more on small scale sector, how we are going to focus more on sectors by which we can make Indian economy more and more resilient. In this particular context, we management fraternity know that there is a need that how this teaching pedagogy, this is going to be changed. And in this particular changing teaching pedagogy, it is very important that how we can introduce some such kind of cases by which students not only relate the Indian situation, but they can also relate whatsoever are the modern changes, modern technologies which are going to be introduced by the industry, and most of the faculty member they are able to relate in the classroom situation. We have seen that there is a tremendous growth of international trade also, but side by side there is also a need that how we are going to develop our own industries by adopting modern changes and all kind of this new technologies which are emerging in the horizon. In that particular respect, this case teaching method, this has emerged as one of the important area. this particular conference as well as this competition, this is going to focus that how faculty members, they are going to write as well as going to teach these kind of cases which are based on changing scenario. Healthcare, this is one of the important area which has recently been discussed, and there is also a need that how this healthcare cases in management are also going to be included. India Case Research Center is going to take into consideration aspiration of all the budding authors as well as management teachers, and this is an attempt that how this case writing method, this is going to be make an effective method in most of the management institute. I know that we have a very overwhelming response to this particular conference, and tomorrow we have quite sizable number of cases which are going to be presented from leading B schools, and in a competition these are going to be judged. We know that this particular conference is going to give us a chance further how we are going to strengthen our case research center. With these words, once again, I would like to welcome all of you, and on behalf of IIMA, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Agrawal. Now may I invite Dr. Rajan Saxena to please set the context of the conference and the competition. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be with you all this afternoon. Dr. Raj Agrawal, the members of the IIMA community, our guest this afternoon, Mr. Pranjal Sharma, and all the participants to this wonderful conference that IIMA has organized. ICRC has organized, the India Case Research Center has organized. This is indeed the very first kind of initiative in this regard, that is of the conference and the competition that ICRC is doing. And we are overwhelmed by the response that we have received, not just merely from all those who want to participate in the contest, which is what Dr. Raj Agrawal just mentioned, but also by everybody who's participating in this conference. A conference that has been made possible by all the kind of our collaborators and the partners about whom just a few minutes back certain words have been said. So I won't really repeat that. It is always a pleasure to be with you all in this conference, and I must say that this is one of the great initiatives of IIMA. And let me just put across what are some of the perspectives that have really led us in IIMA to create this India Case Research Center. Of course, Dr. Raj Agrawal made out a very big context of this, of really pointing out to the kind of growth that has been a story of the Indian economy. But more than that, now today, the Indian economy will also be an example and a case study on resilience. It's a fact that today, if we were to look at the world economy, the three economies of the world that are really going to drive the future development and the future growth in a post-pandemic world, these are going to be the India, China, US. These are the three economies that are going to be, sort of leading the growth in the post-pandemic period itself. About a few years ago, IIMA's council decided that it was time that IIMA really found its place as a thought leader in professional management. We are all aware of the kind of developments, and we are all aware of the kind of things that IIMA has been doing. Its outreach with the management schools, and apart from the management community itself. And so therefore, from that kind of a perspective, the Board of Studies of IIMA CME thought over and decided to create this India Case Research Center. Now, when I look at this India Case Research Center, I really look at it from a couple of points of view. What was the need for it? Is it that the cases in India were not being developed? No. The development of cases and the growth of management schools is really intertwined. I don't think there is any top business school in this country that has not been developing the cases, whether this is from the government sector like the IIMs, or in the private sector like the XLRI or MDI, or let us say NMIMS, or any other institution that we talk about it, or Wellinger, or any of the top institutions that we talk about it. But more than that, I think what was happening is the fact that the faculty had been using the cases, they've been writing the cases, they've been using it. But I wonder, and this is something which I had often said, I wonder how many of us, when we get into academics, and I talk about it also when I started my journey in the management education more than 4 decades ago, that we weren't really trained in handling a case. We weren't really trained in terms of even understanding what a good case is really all about. So what was really a missing link? And I'm going to be coming over to some of the missing links, and which is what is really the driving IMA ICRC itself. And we are going to be doing a lot of parts that are there, or we're going to play a very significant role in ensuring such kind of links can be removed, or let us say, we really strengthen our position in the global context itself. We're all aware of the fact that technology today is really driving the change. I, for one, believe that there are 3 big drivers in the Indian economy that are really going to shape up the Indian economy in times to come. One is the technology. We are all aware about it, the disruptive technologies which are there. Whether this is in the cloud technology, or this is in the area of artificial intelligence, machine learning, or analytics, or social networks, whatever these that we talk about it, the fact is that these technologies today are impacting the entire the industry and also the Indian economy itself. But let's not stop over there. I think the second big factor is the demography, the Indian demography itself. You know, we are today a young nation. It's something that has been talked about it. And we realize that this is a young nation which is highly aspirational. And the third factor that I realize is the fact that, well, it is the economy. It's a social economy, as also the social and the cultural factors that are interesting. The way people relate, the way people communicate, the way we all live with each other, and how we really go along. The entire society's structure and every part of it, and our own culture. Now, interestingly, when technology interplays with the demography and economy, some very interesting kind of dynamics happen. And what are the kind of dynamics that is happening? Suddenly you find that there is a disruption in the industry. You find that there is a disruption in the society. There's a disruption in the way we all think. There's a disruption in the way we all communicate. And as a consequence of which, it becomes a recipe for a study at a global level itself. Having been a keen observer of Indian management and Indian economy, both as a teacher, as also as a student, and then leading the institutions, I, for one, have been fascinated by the way, for example, the social networks have changed, the manner in which we all relate to each other. the virtual communications today have a very important role to play. Not only so, that in terms of the communication, even in terms of endorsement of the products and let us say some of the let's say the consumption values itself, how the consumption values are changing. Interestingly, it is getting so much influenced by people whom we know, certainly through the social networks, but also by people whom we have never met. We are not going to be meeting. We do not know who they are, but it is their opinion on the websites of the companies, or for that matter, let us say, on the various economic or let's say portals, for example, like Amazon or Flipkart or any of those areas, or for that matter, the endorsements that come up on the various kinds of travel portals, etc. The fact is that I tend to buy a product or a service based on recommendation of somebody whom I don't know. But all that I know is this is a person who has consumed the product and therefore is really writing that kind of a recommendation. Now, my point was, and this is where, the whole discussion in IMA and the ICRC was, that are we really capturing these kinds of changes? And are we really bringing these kinds of changes to the management education itself, in management education? And are we really doing something there or not? Now, there was another factor that happened, and this is where now comes the next big kind of a parameter, which to my mind is driving this very big change, and that is pandemic. Now, pandemic completely threw everybody in a way, and it completely disrupted. And I have often said that in one of my articles, I said that the education institutions were forced shut. The whole economy was forced shut. And not just merely Indian economy, but the global economy itself. Now, what that really means is that there are new kinds of paradigms today that have emerged. For example, work from home is now today a reality. Or for that matter, let us say the virtual teams are now today a reality. How do we lead virtual teams today who are working on the same project from all over the world itself, for example? How do we really collaborate? What does it really take to collaborate? How the global collaboration is really happening, how the global collaboration is happening, how the company coping with the diversity, how the companies are today really managing those kinds of virtual teams. Some of the data that is coming up today tells us that more than 10% of the workforce would be working permanently from home itself. Now look at this, and this is at a global level. This is a tremendous amount of a kind of a meaning when we start looking at it from the perspective of management itself. So I realized, and this is where we were all talking about it, that I think it is important to us in IMA to study and capture this. Equally, it is important for us to tell the story of India, Indian companies, Indian economy, Indian society, and the cultural change that is happening in this country at a global level itself. Now, one could have done that. There was no problem on that. One could do it in the management schools. And I'm sure that many of the management schools are already doing something in this area. In fact, many of the cases that have gone from India and they are today available at some of the global case portals like Harvard, for example, these are some of those kinds of cases that are of the change. But then I think that we need many, many, many more. The growth of some of the organizations, for example, in a post-pandemic period. For example, the delivery firms like Zomato, for example, how they have really grown and this is one of the growth stories yet in red. Why is it that they are in red when they have really been growing? Swiggy, for example. So the delivery firms, for example, cloud kitchens, which have today emerged, or the whole lot of us new startups, which are really which are really creating solutions for India, which is in the midst of this kind of a pandemic. That is something that is important for us to be really doing it. So therefore, in IMA, there was the aspect was, and in IMA, this was one of the kind of thing is, how do we really emerge as a thought leader in management, in professional management itself. And we realized that research is a way forward. So the goals of the India Case Research Center is very clearly to set up, to develop experiential pedagogy tools. And obviously cases is one of them. But we are going to be going over to look at it from the point of view of even developing simulations and some of the other behavioral sciences, let's say, the instruments, etc., that are there. The research in the economy, the research in industry, all this is really going to be so very critical, and therefore one of the goals is in that direction. It is also to develop a large community of case writers in this country. It is not to say that we don't have case writers. I think we need to train many, many, many more. And training is very different from just merely somebody who becomes spontaneously a case writer. Case is not something which is typically just a story itself. I think, and I'm going to be just talking in a second, in a minute, on what a good case is really all about. And therefore, we are pretty hopeful that today, in our panel discussion, after this inaugural session, we're going to be deliberating on a whole lot of things in that area itself also. So we want to develop a large community of case writers and researchers from management schools and industry. We want to network and partner with all those who share the same goal of developing the experiential pedagogy, using the experiential pedagogy to deliver the management education. I said that, the history of case writing in India and the growth of management education are intertwined. But there's been missing link. Why is it that we don't see many, many more cases in the world in a global context itself? Why is it that we don't see our Indian cases being used by some of the top business schools today also for the purposes of teaching? I believe it is largely because of the fact, one is of course the prejudice that may happen, but more importantly, I think there is a rigor which is really missing. And I think it is important when we are writing the case that, how do we really bring rigor in the research? How much of our data do we really pick it up? And one of the biggest kind of a dilemma is that of the depth and the width of a research that the researcher has to get into it. I think in a good case, well researched in a company, have both the depth and the width which will make decision-making possible. So it is not to say that we are writing a book, we are writing a good case, and a good case can be written not just merely in 25 or 30 pages, it can even be done in 10 pages or 8 pages, or even just 2 pages if it is a good database research that is there. And why are we talking about it? Because the more we are able to bring the different dimensions there, different kinds of dimensions, it becomes easier to develop the critical thinking, and also it helps us to develop what we call it as the decision-making skills. A good case, therefore, is the one that has multiple dimensions and it really brings in the problem, it brings problems upfront and also encourage the development of critical thinking and the application of analytical thinking. I'm pretty confident that this case writing conference that we are doing today in this context will really give us some great ideas and some great thoughts to think over. And certainly it would be of a fairly useful kind of a way by which we can really take it forward. I see Dr. Sehasrabudhe also having joined us in. Thank you, Dr. Sehasrabudhe, for being with us. And it is always a pleasure to listen to you. You have been of a great help to us at the India Case Research Center. Your partnership has really helped India Case Research Center's cause of advancing the cause of writing and projecting India in the global context itself. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and it's a pleasure to be over here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rajan Saxena. A very warm welcome to Dr. Anil D. Sahasrabudhe, Chairman AICTE. With this, now we move on and invite our keynote speaker, Mr. Pranjal Sharma. Mr. Pranjal Sharma, economic analyst, advisor, and an author. Over to you, Mr. Sharma.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And good afternoon to everybody. And thank you, Mr. Saxena, Dr. Agarwal, and Dr. Sahasrabudhe. Great to see everybody online. Just a day after Holi, I think we're all back to work as we expect. I'm going to share a few slides which refer to my recent book, India Automated. It's about the rise of automation in India and what it means. And this has a lot of examples of how companies and organizations in India have used technology for a larger good. And I think that's the important piece that we must understand, both enterprises as well as government bodies. So I'm going to share the presentation. I hope I have the rights. I hope everybody can see this now.
Yes, Pranjal, we can.
Excellent. So let me begin by talking about what I call, the rise of automation in India. And this is really about how we look at automation in a way that is making a big shift in the country. Now, automation in a country where 1 million people look for jobs every month, new people, I think is seen as a bit of a contradiction. But the fact is that automation is making a big difference in India. And the book is a result of efforts of putting together examples across the country of what has been done to make a difference by enterprises, global enterprises, domestic enterprises, startups, as well as government bodies to change the way technology impacts governance and consumers. Of course, a quick update on what the fourth industrial revolution is. As you know, the first industrial revolution was from the steam engine, the second was from electricity, and the third was from the computer chip. This current fourth industrial revolution is really about connected technologies, and Dr. Saxena referred to that in a very articulate manner of collaboration and connectivity. So entire range of technologies from blockchain to AI to Internet of Things to drones, they come under the umbrella of the larger theme of fourth industrial revolution. There is a fear, of course, that everybody will be jobless, but really it's about transition, and I will discuss that. The reality is that India has to embrace automation, be prepared, and be relevant. If we ignore it, I think we are going to be in difficult. Now, why is automation required? In my view, I think there are 4 categories of tasks which are dirty, dangerous, dull, and difficult, which automation is taking care of. And automation is not end-to-end automation. In all the technologies that I described here earlier, automation is embedded in this, whether we're looking at drones, whether we're looking at data analysis, things where any process that can be automated will be automated, because it's not possible for humans to do a lot of things anymore, the scale and the pace and speed that we want. So, for example, cleaning rivers, machines can do it much faster. We do not need to have humans doing that. Something which is dangerous, like scavenging, and many of you know that 5 million people are manual scavengers, and we don't want that to happen. So we should use, several municipalities are using automated machines now. Dull work, which is, for example, tax filing. But the good news is that the central tax authorities have automated many of their systems, so you can get refunds and other things very quickly. And of course, they're working with private sector on some of these solutions. So this also refers to the concept of collaboration that was talked about earlier. Difficult tasks, again, manual labor, we don't want that to have. We want people to be educated and working with skills rather than just muscle power, and automation helps in that. There is a lot of automation happening in government as well. And again, this brings transparency. Please understand that, as for example, I refer to income tax. If you look at tax filing from we have a very small tax assessees base. But if, from 10%, if it goes to 30%, you cannot increase your tax department commensurately. So you need to do that. But several government departments, like, for example, are using facial recognition for tracing children, and of course for criminal to get hold of criminals as well. Vehicle records are being automated to ensure that our driver's licenses are much better managed. Fake licenses, etc., can be rooted out of the system. Similarly, in enterprises which have been leading in many ways in medical, healthcare, automation, and using of image scanning and AI in scanning in images has really picked up in a very big way. And please understand this: it allows such kind of excellent image ability, image scanning ability, and image interpretation ability to areas which do not have perhaps the best doctors. So you can have situation where an X-ray is sent and scanned and sent to a central place. It is analyzed and the diagnosis is sent back almost immediately to ensure that even a semi-qualified doctor or a person with less experience can give quick diagnosis to a patient in any part of the country. And the National Digital Health Mission is going to be accelerating a lot of these efforts. Predictive maintenance is happening in a very, very big way, where, especially in the time of COVID, where physical movement was not possible, many of the largest industrial plants in the country could work because of automated systems, where remote access technologies could allow people sitting in a central control room to be able to diagnose problems in various factories and to resolve it using augmented reality and virtual reality as well. I don't have time for all those details, but I'll be happy to share more information later. Trends, and I think that was again referred to by Dr. Saxena. There is a move to cloud computing. Basically, it means that all information is going to be kept in a central place. So you don't need to have to go to office, for example, to be able to access work. And what has happened in a post-COVID world is everything which we expected to occur over the next 5 years actually happened in the last 5 months, in just 5 months. So the pace and change and acceleration has been quite tremendous. And that's a global effort. I'm saying this is not just about India, it's everywhere. And since all of you are faculty and students across different domains, you must understand that technology is not just related to the IT sector. Human resource management, finance management, marketing, logistics, everything is deeply infused by new technology, emerging technology that we're talking about. This is also an era of constant learning. So which means that we have to look at the fact that just because you earn a degree today, it's not going to be adequate for you. Data security and regulation are again big challenges both for regulators, which across the world as well as within the countries. Electronic governance, as I gave you some examples, Arogya Setu is a very good example of that. CoWIN portal, which is helping vaccination, where we have crossed more than 2 million patients and citizens being vaccinated every day, is a tremendous achievement in the country. Please understand, for a country of this size to achieve this is unprecedented. No other country in the world can claim to, no other democracy, I would say, in the world can do this. We have to look at, since we're talking about skilling and talent, and we're talking about issues of case studies, we have to understand that the whole shift will happen where blue and white collar workers, the difference between them will reduce a lot. Hybrid models of digital, physical, which you see some of that in e-commerce, are emerging. Online training using 3D models has picked up a lot. All these technologies are allowing scale and very, very sharp level of customization of needs. I was referring to the degree, and here is an example of that, where we pick up one degree and hope to survive with that degree for the next 30 years. It's not going to happen. Every 6 months, we'll have to update ourselves in the same way that we update a phone, for example. A mobile phone updates its software every 6 months, every 3 months sometimes. But we hope that our own software, our own brain software and knowledge software has to update itself very, very frequently. So the age of continuous learning is here, and I think the Case Study Center is going to be contributing to that in a big way. So with that, I will end over here. I'm happy to take some questions from anybody.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma. Before we open the floor for Q&A, it's my pleasure to invite Dr. Anil T. Sahasrabudhe, Chairman AICTE, for his inaugural address, please.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. It is indeed a great pleasure to be in the midst of all of you, starting from Dr. Raj Agarwal, who was after me all the time that I must come onto this platform. I had three parallel meetings going on. So I was doing hide and seek game. I think some of you might have noticed or not, I don't know, but I was going to the other channel and coming back, multi-channel, multifaceted, continuous action happening since morning. Anyway, we have Dr. Raj Agarwal, Dr. Ravi Rai Jain, Dr. Rajan Saxena. I want to make these names very interesting. I will tell you, Raj is the king. Rajan is also a king. See, these two kings are there with us. Dr. Ravi is nothing but the sun, Surya. So who is giving light? Pranjal gives us the energy, Pranjal. Dhananjay is the victorious one, one in the Mahabharata we call Dhananjaya, and we have Bhimaraya Maitri. Bhima is the strength of Bhima. Maitri is friendship. So I think all of these guys who are there with us today, they are exquisite by themselves. And such a occasion, when I'm asked to speak on what is known as your, very passion in management education is case studies. I always refer that in other types of education, we have hardly anything called case studies. But the entire development of the management education revolves around case studies. And it's so important that to make a student understand a particular concept, there is nothing better than the case studies. And therefore, this case study approach is so significant and important that all of you are today talking about how to do Indian case studies go abroad. And it is not new. We all are aware that our Dabbawalas from Mumbai became a hit topic in all universities across the globe. Forget about within IIM Ahmedabad or IIM Bangalore, but even worldwide. And that's why, whether it is in terms of getting formal degrees or otherwise, there are case studies which exist in our country, and some of those examples which some of you reflected, and we can graduate from there onwards to a higher level. Just a while ago, I was in another meeting which I said, where we celebrate our innovation from grassroots. You must be all knowing another professor, Anil Gupta from IIM Ahmedabad. He was not there on this panel today when I was speaking, but nevertheless, there is what is known as grassroots innovations, GIAN, Grassroots Augmentation Network. He started with Honeybee Network, graduated to what is known as GIAN, and also now today in the Rashtrapati Bhavan, all of these are celebrities. Each year, people from different remote areas, you identify them, their innovations, and bring them to the Rashtrapati Bhavan and celebrate. They are awarded for their innovation. I think, therefore, case studies can be in multi-dimensional direction. In the COVID times, unlike many other countries in the world, we had an exploration of the online education never ever seen before, that we started off not in higher education and technical education. Obviously, technical education people had wherewithal in terms of dealing with online education in some way or the other, whether it is creation of some of the courses in the MOOC platform, massive online open courses. Many of them did have their own what we call management systems which are in existence, whether it is ERP, whether it is in terms of Moodle. There were classes being happening in the use of technology. But when it came to a college like arts college or a commerce college or a science college, there were hardly anything. Management institutions were in the middle, and there were schools and high schools where absolutely, except for watching TV, they had not done nothing, especially the teachers. But within 3 months of the pandemic, from March to June, all of them were onboarded onto the online education. I think there is no school in the country, no high school, no college, no university which is left out in terms of use of technology in education. Whereas you go to some of the most advanced countries, they all claim to be, having the 5G connectivity and so on and so forth, but they have lost one academic year. India did not lose. We only lost a couple of months, and we are in a position to make it up within no time. So this is itself an excellent case study for all of you to study. go to Chhattisgarh, go to Nagaland, go to Jammu Kashmir, all kind of remote areas, forest areas, they are all onboarded. Of course, there are difficulties. We cannot say that everything is all honky-dory. There are problems of connectivity. Even in cities like Mumbai and Delhi, sometimes the connectivity gets snapped, and we'll have to depend on the mobile phone to get connected and talk to each other while the online meetings are going on. These are all possibilities. In fact, I had an interesting episode when Minister was there and Dr. Anil Kakodkar was supposed to have spoken, and suddenly in Mumbai, Thane, the internet connectivity got lost. So Minister was asking, he wanted to say something, no, but he's now lost. He's not available now. So then I got an idea. I just called him up on my mobile phone and I said, I will take my speaker phone on and you speak, and that will go through my computer to the entire audience. And these are all innovations we have been doing in this pandemic period. And he was able to connect with the minister, although visually they were not able to see each other, but his voice was heard ultimately. And this has happened many a times. Subsequently, I gave this idea to many people that if the connection goes off, don't worry. And same is the case with education. Our children in the tribal villages, remote areas, if they get snapped, they should not worry. They should go to their friend and ask them to connect them on a mobile phone, which is all available. Not only that, our MOOC courses, which are there on the Swayam platform, are also available on Dish TV. There are 32 direct-to-home channels. Therefore, when it comes to education, we have all of this. And AICTE on its part started what is known as Smart India Hackathon 4 years ago. And during pandemic itself, we have held 3 important hackathons. Number one, the first one was called Ideathon, to get ideas for solving the problems of the people, whether it is helpline for the people when they are in distress because of sudden pandemic and the activities had come to a grinding halt, to help them in terms of whether it is food, accommodation, to get connectivity and so on and so forth, including medicines. Second was Samadhan, where some of those things which India did not have, whether it is PPE kits or whether it is ventilators, whether it is the masks themselves, all of them were produced from our colleges in the laboratories. Chemistry laboratories had something to do. Mechanical engineering workshop had something to do. We all created what was not existing. I think this is again another case study by itself. Then CSIR, Prime Minister's office and AICTE, Ministry of Education jointly have ongoing what is known as Drug Discovery Hackathon. Of course, we have not got any vaccines developed out of this hackathon, but nevertheless, what is otherwise required to be a 8 to 10 year cycle for developing a new vaccine or a new drug, how that can be reduced. We all know in the automotive sector about 7-8 years ago, we used to talk about a cycle of 5 to 6 years minimum for getting a new model of a car. Whether it is the original Maruti or Tata Motors from India, or even Volkswagen or Ford or any one of them, or Toyota for that matter, who are advanced in Japanese style, they all took 5 to 6 years time to get a new model. From then on, using AutoCAD and many other activities, we have brought down that timing to hardly 1 or 2 years. A new model can come up very easily in 1 or 2 years. Today we talk about having what is known as 3D printing machines, and on one side AutoCAD and other tools which are available. Dr. Saxena is intrigued. He may sit at his home and design a car of his choice, of his shape, of his choice of the color, and send that to maybe Toyota, and Toyota will print it in Japan or even in India, some of their plants which are there here and there, and then send it back to you within 15 days, a car which is assembled, which is a matter of now a reality. It's not a matter of things of the future. It's all the present. It's all possible. And so why not drug? Drug also can be done in the same way. We have hundreds and thousands of possible molecules which can be a solution to this present COVID pandemic itself, Corona, COVID-19. And we do not know which one of them will work. Covaxin worked. We don't know. It would have not worked also. So if we have thousands of possible molecules, can we parallelly do parallel computing using supercomputing and then try to course correct and then come to maybe 50 molecules, out of thousands of them, which are the likely candidates who will find to be a solution to this problem. And then in 50 different labs in the country, each one separately, parallelly trying to really do investigation further in the laboratory to create a molecule which is tested on first animals, maybe some of the animals like rats and monkeys and all that, and then on the human beings. Then why can't we produce a drug within 6 months? This is again a reality, and which has happened. We were on imagining, of course, our students are not geared up for that. Our medical industry and pharmaceutical industry is geared up. They could get a vaccine within a year time. But now, if this drug discovery hackathon is to be taken forward, in the future, if there is any such crisis which emerges, we will be fully geared up and prepared for that. I think this is another case study of the making. In terms of toy hackathon, which is ongoing right now, you have about a huge industry, multi-billion-dollar industry, which is a toy industry, and 95% of the toys in India are all imported. I don't want to mention the name of the country from where they come, but we need to become Atmanirbhar. If we have to become Atmanirbhar, our MSMEs must be supported in terms of getting new ideas. It cannot be the old style toys which are not going to be useful. You should have mechanical circuitry in that in terms of gears and different types of gadgets which are there, along with some of the electronic systems. Thereby, they will become flying objects, they will become moving objects. Students and young students or children will be enjoying those. And only then we can replace the toys which are imported by the Indianized toys and also take a cake in the world market of toys. I think these are all possibilities, can become excellent case studies. If you go back about 3-4 years back, the demonetization had its own impact. The pandemic suddenly had an impact and people had to walk around, some of them several hundreds of kilometers to reach to their villages. Each one of these problems are by themselves case study. None of them went hungry. None of them died actually on the streets. They got help from either social organizations, religious organizations, political organizations, and the government. I think these are wonderful case studies for all of you to ponder upon. And I can go on, and I have another meeting to go. So I think I will, close here. And all the best wishes for creating new case studies, which will become order of the day in the new education policy, where it is playful learning, joyful learning, which is there at the elementary school to higher education, including skill-based education. Thank you very much, all of you. And in particular, Dr. Raj Agarwal, who will never let me go. I was saying that I'm having a lot of meetings, I will not be able to make it. He said, "Nahi sir, thoda der to aana padega, thoda der to aana padega." So main aa gaya. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for coming, sir. Thank you.
Inspiring address, sir. Thank you so much, Dr. Anil Sahasrabudhe, for honoring our invitation. And we immensely value your presence at IIMA's very first case writing competition and conference. Thank you so much for blessing us, sir. With this, I have a few questions for the distinguished panel here. So there is one from Mr. Ajay Arora. He would like to know, how could case studies which analyze past data be useful in preparing us for the future disruptions? Dr. Sahasrabudhe, would you like to answer, or Dr. Saxena?
Well, so far as the let's say what's happening around today and the development of the cases is concerned, as the person who has put this question has very rightly said, that often the cases that are if restricted to a given time period, what is happening around today, we are actually capturing it. I think what really is useful in such a situation is to pick up some of these kinds of live cases and take it straight into the class. And today it is possible to not just merely put a text over there, but also a video of what is really happening. And therefore the class then really participates in the discussions itself. So it not just merely talks about in terms of what has been developed, but also talks about what are the challenges that are there ahead in terms of implementing a certain concept or taking the concept forward. I mean, taking, for example, what Dr. Sesha gave an example of the 3D printing, and something which is a reality today in not just merely automobile industry, but even in the health sciences itself. In the pharma industry, this is what he was talking about it. I think the whole lot of developments, for example, that are happening today in different industries or the economy can really be captured, brought into the class for a lively discussion, and also one can really bring in the experts from the industry and also from the field of technology to really talk about. One can even get the experts from let's say different sectors of the economy to talk about the possible impact of such a kind of a development.
Dr. Rajan, I would like to add a little more on that.
Yes.
In fact, we all talk about today multidisciplinary nature of all innovations and research that takes place. And so, based on our ability to analyze, critical thinking, will always give solution for newer problems based on our previous studies and previous case studies. I think this is important. The same Dabbawala example, you're all aware that they started giving the food, tiffin carrier box leading to the different offices. But the same thing can be used for delivering, whether it is medicine, delivering goods. All of that is possible using the same color coding principle which they had adopted. So I think one case study can lead to many other solutions in our today's world. And with the artificial intelligence, machine learning, and blockchain, all of these in place, many possibilities arise from the classrooms. If students are given a challenge, and which I referred to our Smart India Hackathon deliberately. So we are not giving opportunity to our students to think aloud. If you allow that, many innovations will happen and many new techniques and solutions will emerge in somewhat areas where we have not even imagined that there are possibilities. I think all of these are possible. Therefore, case studies need not be considered to be as the past or the present, but they will also be leading us into the future as well.
A small question for Dr. Sahasrabudhe. Sir, it says how important it is for Indian organizations to learn from Indian businesses themselves with reference to Indian cases.
No, I think each one of these case studies, whether from abroad or India, they have a value addition happens. Now, I don't want to distinguish it is only Indian case studies are which useful. Sometimes some of the Western case studies may be implemented here and they have a great application. Similarly, our case studies may be useful. In the pandemic, many of these things which we were doing as routine, they have become order of the day, whether it is yogasana, whether it is greeting each other with namaste. These are ordinary simple things, but and also use of turmeric. All of that has become, which was a part of our home, remedies have become order of the day in the pandemic to create better solutions for our additional immunity to be developed. So the similar case studies of our Indian origin can be useful for any part of the world. Why should it not be? I think we need to explore, we need to advertise, we need to take it forward, and branding has to be done. Many times we don't brand ourselves. We are always skeptical about whatever comes from the West alone is good and whatever we have is not good. I think we give away that and then start becoming proud of our own culture, our own traditions and our own solutions. I'm sure the world will also start following them.
In fact, to add just to Dr. Sahasrabudhe, today the world is more interested in India than we as Indians are interested in our own country. And to really write about it, the change that is happening around.
But first we should
capture this kind of a change that is happening. And what is it that is making this country a country of 130 million really survive and continue to grow. Even in the midst of such kind of massive disruption that have really happened, without any kind of a bloodbath, without any bloody revolutions that are there. This is something which is a great kind, and that's what, whenever I'm talking to some of my counterparts in the different parts of the world, I mean, that's what they really talk about. And it is time for us to capture a lot of these cases, which is what Dr. Seshabudhe was saying right now, that I think it is necessary for us to capture all these developments that are really taking place. And somewhere at the end of the day, I think in the ICRC, we are going to be coming out with the books, with the book on cases itself, also as also some of the research papers that we are doing. And not only so, I think since it is an online portal, the entire cases are then available at a global level itself. And that is really going to make the India story more and more interesting.
Sir, I will give you 3 case studies, problems, and someone should work on them from AICT side.
Sir.
Number one, we have had what is known as a student induction program of 3 weeks duration and universal human values as a course. And we wanted to train our faculty members. We have trained 40,000 faculty members in universal human values during this pandemic period. We have Atal Academies under which all emerging areas like AI, IoT, machine learning, deep learning, robotics, 3D printing, augmented reality, virtual reality, cloud computing, cyber security, blockchain, conducted 1,000 courses and trained 1.5 lakh faculty members. And all of these, both the versions are 5-day workshops, 5-day full-length faculty development programs, and 1,000 of them during this pandemic. Some of these days, simultaneously, 50, 60 of them being started from Monday till Friday. I think it's an amazing, technology usage. And during face-to-face mode, we used to have only 50. Now we can have 200 to 300 faculty onboarded. And secondly, we have experts drawn from whole world, from eastern side, from Australia, Singapore, and Japan to the other extreme west to Canada, USA, and also, of course, Europe and India and subcontinent here. So the depth of learning from these faculty members, from industry and academia, from all over the world, and instead of 50 people trained in one workshop, now 200, 300 being trained. I think that has really been a great initiative. And lastly, which always AICT, about which there used to be complaint, is about our inspection and the processes of scrutiny documents, EVC, which we call expert visit committees to the campuses. And there will be complaints that we did show some of the facilities, experts did not notice it or did not write it, and they have still given us some penalty. Or on the other side, experts saying that the college had not shown us and they are now bluffing. Now all of that has been made online by us. There is no inspection happening in the last 1 year. Everything is online. Everything is recorded. And as the saying used to go earlier, in black and white, I say everything is now in color videos. So no one can cheat anyone and everything is absolutely transparent. I think these are 3 wonderful case studies you must take up, one of you, and then publish them, which is very, very interesting for all of us to learn from.
Dr. Seshabudhe and Dr. Saxena, I must say I made a very small effort. The book that I was referring to in my presentation is really a collection of examples, both in the government at national and state level and in enterprises, where technology has been used to solve a domestic problem and a national problem. And I think we need far, far more of that. I could capture only about 50, but there are hundreds, I think, which students can learn. And unfortunately, or as things are, they are obsolete even as, capturing. So as very rightly said, sir, that things are evolving so fast that we can learn from the past, but we need to have a constant stream of such examples to both inspire and to learn from.
Pranjal, a very quick question for you. Do we have enough Indian cases about how Indian businesses are addressing technology disruptions?
Not enough at all. I think, one, there is a fundamental hesitancy in companies to share their examples because of competitiveness issues. And I think there is no central place where you can do it. So if an individual like me can go and reach out to hundreds and then persist and then capture it, it's possible. But I think an academic industry collaboration focused only on this can create far more. I think we need 100 times more than what is available right now.
I think that's where, the IMA really comes in. IMA, and IMA is really the forum from which can really help connect the industry with the management schools. It is the management school and the educators who have to really find innovative ways of really reaching out. Much of the time, the way we reach out, and I can tell you as a faculty, I have been a faculty, I have been at Delhi University or at IIMs or in XLRI, etc., and or at MIMS, where I led. My whole view is that, I think the way we reach out to the industry needs a lot to be desired. I think we need to understand that industry has its own issues. Industry is really concerned about its own competitiveness. Industry has to solve its own problems. And if you get into that and be seen as, as trying to get something from them, they're not interested. The answer comes when, or the industry gets interested only when you can really tell them that, look, I can really help you resolve some of your problems by really capturing some of them and bringing it into the classroom. And you would have really the ideas coming over and fresh ideas coming over to you, not from one or two or three, but from a cohort of about maybe 100 students or 200 students. And believe me, I have seen the industry getting interested in it. That is where, and that's where Dr. Sahasrabudhe, the whole internship part that really came up becomes so very fundamentally important, not just merely in management education, even in engineering education, it is becoming important. Why is it that the summer training has really been such a big failure in management education? I think it is only because of this reason that we are seeing the student is seen as an addendum. The student is not seen, and the faculty is not seen as contributing to my process. I'm a marketing professor, so I start with the customer. Why should the customer really buy my? And I look at it from that the customer is asking me a question. Why should I really buy from you? And the answer is, can I really help you solve your problems? That is the criticality. It is not some brand or a product or some tangible benefits that I'm really looking at. It is my solution. I have a problem. I want to solve that. Can you help me? If you can help me, I'm going to help you. That's where it